and welcome back to Talking Books. I'm Neil Gardner. That's Darwin. He's the invigilator. He's also the talent wrangler. And today he's wrangling that man there. It's only flipping Jon Culshaw, isn't it? Look at him.
How are you, Neil?
I'm very well.
Good
Thank you
to
very much
see
for coming
you.
in. You just came in, didn't you? You're just passing by.
Pretty much, just passing by.
Yeah.
Recorded.
Croydon, you wouldn't.
Well, exactly. This is a haven in Croydon, you know. To go into the little box there and record for how many hours have we done? 4 hours, do you think?
Today we've done 4.5. We did about 4.5 yesterday. Yeah, it's
But
good.
you get a story done.
Yeah, bit of Doctor Who.
Oh, yes.
For you.
Yes.
So it's lovely to have Jon here. Now, the show's all about audiobooks and how different people who work in the audiobook field do what they do. And so you're obviously a narrator. But you've only been narrating audiobooks, full-length audiobooks for a couple of years now. I think the first one you did was actually with me, wasn't it?
They've all been here. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it was The Ark in Space.
Oh, classic fourth.
Yes, I think it might have been, you see, I'm straight away, any excuse.
That's why we get him here.
But about 3 or 4 years ago,
It might
be 3 or 4,
about
you know.
3.5, yeah. We've done quite a few since. I think this might be our 6th or 7th now.
Yes, I've The Ark in Space, Death to the Daleks, the Sontaran Experiment.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allowed to say too many of the others. The Mutants.
Mutants, that's out. So
Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah, we can't say what this one is yet.
No.
5 Doctors, yeah.
Yeah, The Pirate Planet.
So it's kind of been a mixture of traditional Target novelisations and then some of the newer, I suppose, rewrites or adaptations.
Yes.
So how did you feel coming in doing your first ever audiobook? Because of course you're very well known as a performer, but it's a different beast.
It's a very different beast. It can be quite an intense slog, but in a good way. I'm very used to doing a quick comedy sketch or a quick voiceover script, a commercial, something of 30 seconds or a minute. So to get into that rhythm of recording 4 hours of an entire book over 2 days.
Yeah, kind of endless pages, page after page after page.
It's a very different discipline.
So what did you bring to it that first time? I mean, I remember it was quite a teaching experience for me, having you in. It had been a while since I'd had someone in that hadn't done one before. So it was quite pleasing to be able to pass on that knowledge. But for yourself, did you come prepped in a particular way for it, other than having obviously read the script as a professional?
Yes, you read the script and mark it up and different, colour code all the characters. But it's really just getting used to the different rhythm of taking on an entire book.
Yeah.
You've just got to sort of detach from your moorings a bit, just aquaplane across, rather than get too bogged down and pernickety.
Do you find as someone who is known to obviously perform as other people, that you are creating a performance as the narrator, or are we actually hearing the real Jon Culshaw?
I think my normal spoken voice is this.
Yeah.
Lancastrian.
Lancastrian, yeah.
It's relaxed a little bit.
Yeah.
For a narration, I think I heighten it a bit. You Photoshop up certain words.
Yes. Yeah.
And you take it on this sort of tone.
But I like the fact that you don't change your northernness, if you don't mind me calling it that, because you don't southernize words. So we still have blast rather than blast.
Yes, blast rather than blast. Glass rather than glass.
Although sometimes the different doctors, we have to remind ourselves of what they would say.
Yes. If I'm speaking their lines, then I would have to say glass.
Of course.
And so on. Yes, or glass. Yes, that's right.
Well, of course, when you first came in, it was Fourth Doctor, and you're very well known for your Tom. But we've gradually been able to move you over to some of the other Doctors as well now. How's it feel being able to, obviously you've had that range, but to be allowed to do a wider range of the Doctors?
Oh, it's magic. It really is, especially doing the stories that I've watched since I was this tall.
You're clearly a fan.
Oh, yes.
We have to be doing this job.
Yes, I am an absolute fan, and for that reason I like to think that I think how the fans think.
Yeah.
So I record it the way that I would like to hear it, I suppose.
Yes, you're hearing it almost back, as it were, as you're going.
Yes.
Yeah.
And to record some of those, John Pertwee was my first Doctor.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that wonderful sharp resonance by which he would speak, very, very clipped but very warm, and occasionally with great bursts of authority.
Is that headmaster in it?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
But sometimes very subtle.
Very caring.
Yes, very caring, very relaxed. Yes, that's right. Go to the top of the class. Don't you see, man? You've got to risk it. I love that tone.
Yes.
Of his.
Well, it's that whole era has such an interesting set of characterizations to it, didn't it?
Jon Pertwee wore this wonderful warm velvet, and he spoke in the same way.
Yes.
I think if those marvellous jackets could speak, I think this is probably what they'd sound like.
Absolutely.
It's a gorgeous resonance.
But it's also a good era for you to get into some of the other voices. Obviously, we've got Joe Grant, but we've also got it's the unit era, of course. So you know, you've got Mike Yates and Benton, but also the Brigadier, who we both love dearly. Lovely Nick Courtney, who we all miss.
We do. What a wonderful, wonderful man. I met him on a couple of occasions.
Really? Oh wow.
And they're treasured memories of meeting him. One was at the 40th anniversary celebrations. Wow. Where he was such a witty, warm, kind fellow. Yeah. Wonderful company. Fabulous to have around and to be around. And the other time was when the Heritage Foundation organisation put on a celebratory event in honour of Doctor Who.
Oh, wow.
And Terence Dix was there, Barry Letts was there, cast from the present and the past.
Oh, cool.
Including Nick Courtney.
Oh.
And he was so wonderful, and just speaking in a regular sort of everyday way, that wonderful warmth, and recalling those days near the Troughton era, and then John came in, and breath of fresh air, I met him, and he just such a lovely presence, and we all tucked away into a pub called the Audley. Yes, there's a pub, the Audley, across the road. I think we should probably decamp there to the Audley. And it was early December, and it was just starting to snow.
Oh,
and
wow.
There was a few of us there tucked into a little corner. And it was just magic. It's a treasured memory.
Obviously, all narrators have to inhabit their characters, they have to bring out the voices, but with Doctor Who, you have a particular issue because, of course, we know them. They've been on screen, they've been played by very famous actors. Now, you're an impressionist, a mimic, an impersonator, but how do you do that? How do you inhabit, say, someone like the Brigadier? Is it just from watching the shows? Is it the luck that you met Nick? How do you bring that to life?
I think part of it is having watched the episodes so many times. I've probably watched, for instance, the Three Doctors 1,000 times.
Wow.
And you never tire of them.
No.
And so you just get very familiar.
Yeah.
You love these characters, you care about them. And to bring them to life, the voice is one thing, but to recreate their rhythms, their nuances.
That's what I was wondering. Is it it's as much about those rhythms and the tonal style rather than just getting the voice bang on, isn't it?
Once you're familiar with the voice, you can sort of put that to one side, and then you see the character in your mind's eye.
So how you're almost watching it on the screen.
Yes, of your imagination. No, I do not propose to ignore the matter. In fact, I was just about to put my best man onto it. I was just about to brief him when you rang. You can see the characters there.
So if a narrator obviously doesn't have your amazing ability, they've got a script in front of them. It's characters. Say it's a Doctor Who, but it could be any script that has recognisable characters. And I have to say to them, clearly, we're not looking, unless you're you, we don't ask them to do an impersonation. But what is that key thing they should try to find? Is it the rhythm? Is it the tonality of a character? What should they latch onto as a narrator trying to capture someone's known voice?
I suppose just making the characters different, separating them.
Yeah.
Trying to catch the sense of their attitude. Trying to get just how they change the scene, how they influence the scene when they're in there.
I always find it's interesting when we're doing the Doctors, particularly the newer Doctors, is to say, well, just go back and watch a bit of an episode and see how Matt Smith or David Tennant or Jodie now uses pauses, for example. See where because some of them will race through a scene, whereas others will purposely cut up a sentence. And I find that genuinely fascinating. So it can be that maybe you can't quite get a Sheffield accent or you can't quite get a Scottish accent with Peter, but you can get the mannerism of the person.
Yes, and an audiobook is theatre of the mind.
Exactly.
So if the rhythm matches the character, then in the mind of the listener, they will fill in the gaps.
Yeah, you can sell it that way.
I just do the voices because it's fun.
Yeah, and you can.
It's for the enjoyment of it, really.
So what's been the hardest thing for you with doing audiobooks? What do you dislike about doing them?
I suppose it's just trying to find that rhythm of doing the longer run.
Okay.
Getting over my being used to doing quick sketches, which are maybe 2 minutes, but just reading in that, not being too pernickety about things.
No.
And you find that rhythm in the end.
Yeah. Expositional worse than dialogue, maybe.
I don't really mind, so long as you've just had a nice look over the text and marked it up. And I always make sure I get a version of the TV program and watch that often. Yeah, that's my first step, just to get familiar.
So again, you know those characters, how they played them. Yeah, that's interesting.
And the atmosphere that episode creates.
Yeah,
you want to try and create that feeling as well.
Yeah, because there we'll get into in a second, because you are doing the Big Finish audio drama side of stuff as well, which obviously they completely recreate that style. But what, for example, if you look at, say, some of the 60s and 70s Who, where a lot of the actors are pretty much straight RP, but in the books, obviously, they're given an opportunity to be bigger, better described characters. How do you find that translating away from what the original actor did to what you can now do in the book? Are you happy to have that sort of freedom to build a character up a little bit more?
Yes, I think you can do, so long as you don't detach from that feeling. So long as if you take their essence, there might be certain things that you can bring to it, depending on how that character inspired you.
Well, it's always how the author's then rewritten them, of course, isn't it? If they've made them different to they were on the show, that's one thing. But I mean, one of the weird things with Doctor Who audiobooks, of course, is that so many of them are adaptations of the show, not just pure, I suppose, script to prose. And so they do have an opportunity, particularly people like Terence Dicks, to add to the scene, to explain a character's motivation better. So I suppose that means you can get into their head a lot more.
Yes, exactly. I would always, I think, stay with that 60s clipped tone, because that's a wonderful celebratory thing. The way that evil ship's commanders would speak in this manner.
As though there's an audience just beyond.
Something very grand about that.
Yes, it's very theatrical, isn't it? It's almost like you've got one take to do the whole episode.
Yes.
Perform. It's we were talking about Kenny Everett performing to his crew before. It's almost like they're there and the crew making the show is the audience at that time. Yes, there's an awful lot of large voices and people kind of doing this out to the crew.
It's a grand style. It is. It's wonderful.
So you've been moving into audio dramas as well.
Yeah.
So back to your performer version of Jon, rather than how's that been going? That's Big Finish, isn't it?
Oh, it's they're great days.
Yeah.
They're such a wonderful family of professionals.
Which doctors have you been working with?
Now then, I have worked with Sylvester.
Oh, fabulous.
Worked with Peter. I've worked with Paul McGann. It's fantastic, actually. It's absolutely, I wouldn't mind being the George Lazenby of Doctor Who. That'd suit me fine. He's very, very interesting Doctor. I love how Big Finish are giving the 8th Doctor. Now we have the chance to witness so many more stories from him, which is fantastic.
It's incredible how many adventures the 8th Doctor now has, considering he just has the one visual. Well, I suppose 2 if you include the short webisodes that Stephen Moffat gave him for the 50th.
Yes.
And have you had any key characters you've been playing that you can tell us about? Obviously, there's some that might be under wraps.
I'm trying to think if I've mentioned all the Doctors.
And of course, Tom. I've worked with Tom.
So you've actually been faced Mano with Tom.
Yes, indeed.
Does he approve of you being?
Oh, he always gives a hearty. He always smiles in that huge stuff.
He is a great man.
That huge. Do I really sound so odd?
He's got the eyes. It's the eyes. You do the eyes, and it's scary.
Yes, when I was a monk. Such happy days, and we would walk around wearing our habits. A great feeling of freedom, as you can imagine. And these are the anecdotes he tells when you're there.
They are amazing, aren't they?
And a nun would walk in to visit, and she left. Some hours later, she would visit regularly, probably for spiritual enlightenment and to offer spiritual enlightenment. And she raised an owl, you know. She raised an owl between her chest. Yes, that's where she incubated the owl egg.
It's incredible, isn't it?
You just sit back and listen and you marvel.
I know. He's such a raconteur. He's such an old school entertainer, and I swear most of it's true. But it must be incredible being in the studio, an audio studio, where he's being full on Tom, full on Fourth Doctor, doing the whole, sack the writer routine and all that. The BBC wouldn't let me have a cabbage as a companion kind of thing. But you're there performing against and opposite him. What was that like for you?
Oh, it lifts you.
It's incredible, isn't it, being there watching him do it?
It lifts you.
Yeah.
There was one story, the Genesis Chamber.
Oh, great story.
With Tom's Doctor and with Lou Jameson as Leela. Philip Hinchcliffe was in the room as well. He's a wonderful chap, wonderfully enigmatic, intelligent, and fiercely interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was in there, and my goodness me, I was working with the team from the era around the Pyramids of Mars.
Wow.
Perhaps my favourite Tom Baker's Doctor story. That was amazing. Just being in the company of these great people. Such an uplifting thing. Yeah. Such an uplifting thing, it really is.
And what do you bring to that as a narrator performer? How do you prepare for that? Do you literally just, obviously you prep like a pro, like always, but when you get there, is there any tips and techniques you can offer to people who are watching who are maybe going to be doing their first audio drama at some point?
I think, yes, know the character, know the text and know the scene that they're fitting into, and just make it.
Listen to your director.
Exactly, yes.
Listen to your director.
Yes. And make it cut through at times and know when to back off.
Interesting.
Let the rhythm of the story.
Yeah. So don't be pressured into getting your lines out. Actually, if there's a performance to be given, give the performance.
Yeah. Say them as you feel them. In a way, truth is what you're after. You want it to ring true.
And if it's because it's the audio medium, we don't have the visual clues to help us out. Is there anything you have to bring differently to a performance to kind of inform the listeners to what you're doing?
I think often that comes in the writing. The way the Big Finish scripts are written, with that subtlety that it's for the ear, it's for the theatre of the mind. Yeah. And a lot of that is there.
It's an incredible skill, isn't it?
Yes. And the difference to writing for audio is to visually. Yeah. Fascinating skill. You find that sort of there. When you're delivering the lines, you can see the scene in your imagination. And if you've got that, then you're on the right track, I think.
You're halfway there.
Yeah.
So then you've recorded it, you've gone away, stuff's magically happened, then you finally hear the finished version, and you've heard the wonderful work of the sound designer and the composer.
Yes.
What's that like?
It's a miracle. When you listen to it, it's a miracle.
It's incredible, isn't it? These small teams, like on a film or a television show, you'd have hundreds of days to do this and tens of thousands of pounds, if not more. Yet Big Finish and us with the BBC and some of the other independent audio producers, it's a couple of people dedicated getting on with this stuff. And the sound design is incredible.
It's a miracle. And especially when you listen to it, usually quite a few months after you've recorded it. Yeah. So you've forgotten the immediate detail of what you've done. So you're listening on fresh ears.
So it's almost like your first listener again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's just, wow, the way that they create movies, audio movies. Yeah. And they're amazing. I go back to, listen to many of the tales many times. It's a great way to just occupy another world for a short while.
And you've also been doing some audio dramas with Audible with our lovely friend Dirk Maggs, who we always mention. So let's say hi, Dirk, as always.
Great fellow.
He is the god of audio,
Yes.
How was that like working with the mighty Dirk?
He's a joy to work with. He's very generous, very smart director. He creates a very yes, exactly. Beard. He's a wonderfully enigmatic fellow, but he creates such a warm atmosphere to work in. He creates a happy place to work in. And the observations he makes are so smart and so helpful. He will keep a story absolutely rooted in the truth, and he'll give it all the fireworks. And so, if Dirk Maggs is directing a thing, you sort of know it's going to be.
You're safe, aren't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of helps. He's also pretty much written it, and he's going to be engineering it and sound designing and composing.
Yeah.
He's a one-man Terry McGann.
Yes.
What's he doing?
I recorded. A David Bowie The Final Take, Bowie in the Studio.
Yes.
With Dirk Maggs, written by David
World
Morley.
Service, was it?
That was, the World Service. Yeah. And Dirk was terrific directing that because he's so familiar. Because he's a musician as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And he's kind of a rock star as well, Dirk Maggs. He was able to direct
hang on,
with the feeling.
He plays drums.
Oh, well, exactly.
Sorry, Dirk.
You'd want him, Led Zeppelin would want him, they really would. But he created the feeling of, the right kind of music scenario.
Yes. Setting the scene correctly, yeah. Great.
He's great. He's terrific to work with.
So going forward, would you ever be up for doing a non-Who audiobook? Is there a genre you'd be interested in doing? You're a thriller man, a bit of erotica. What would touch on Jon's fancy?
Captain Peacock. I'm hoping to write an astronomy book quite soon.
Oh, okay.
About exoplanets.
Purely factual.
Yeah, but presented with some imagination.
Oh, so like we're following along, or we're on a journey with.
For 6 years, I wrote a column for the Sky at Night magazine called Exoplanet Excursions.
Yes.
Where myself and Dr. Paul Abel, a great friend of mine, Sir John Pertwee friends, a great friend of mine, superb, a great friend of mine.
He had so many.
And we would look at confirmed exoplanets known to exist.
Okay.
And then take the facts that we know about them and create a scene of what it would be like to actually see these worlds.
Oh, wow. It's like
what you would see here.
Like a rough guide to an exoplanet.
Yeah.
Wow.
And some of them are mighty, mighty strange places. One of them, 55 Cancri E. It's a super Earth, 8 times the size of the Earth.
Wow.
And it's known to have lots of carbon in it, so there's likely to be a lot of... Diamond mountains would be quite a likely thing.
Good Lord.
And this planet is known to be tidally locked. So if you're on the surface, the home star, the sun of that planet, would never move. It would stay in the same place.
Wow.
So you could just imagine being on a certain point of that planet where the home star was permanently behind some translucent diamond mountains, casting, acting like a prism, casting permanent rainbows into things like this.
I can hear that. I can hear you being both your factual self, but also then painting a picture as you just did.
Yes.
Okay, so as non-fiction is definitely an area for you.
Yes.
Obviously, we've heard you a lot on the radio with Brian and Robin and other science shows, which is fantastic. If there was a fiction genre that you have a particular love for, presumably science fiction you like, maybe fantasy, or are you like a hard-boiled detective man?
I was just thinking that might be quite good. I was watching some episodes of Life on Mars the other week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which was terrific.
Yeah. Good
DCI
stuff.
Gene Hunt. What a great character. And the way that he sparked off of John Sim with Sam Tyler.
Great double act.
Absolutely. Those characters clicked.
Yeah.
Creating something like that.
Okay, interesting.
Something, a 70s style police drama. Or something a bit Dickensian.
Okay.
Something a bit Dickensian, a little bit of that, yes. Why you can have a character who can talk in this manner.
Need to find you a Sherlock Holmes rip-off to do.
Yes, that would be highly splendid.
Yeah, you need something like in the Max Carados vein somewhere.
Yes.
Or Carnacki Ghost Finder that Dan Starkey did a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. A bit Edwardian, a bit Victorian, a bit mysterious.
I think that would be marvellous. Yes. I'm ever so slightly turning into Patrick Moore as I say this.
Well, you did mention Sky at Night.
Yes, I did. That was probably a subliminal thing that placed this into my own imagination.
Well, since we have Patrick with us, I think that's the perfect way to wrap up this episode of Talking Books. Darwin, are we okay to end? We are okay to end. Stop looking at him funny. I know you recognise his voice, but that's another story.
Yes, he's under deep hypnosis, like Professor Rubish.
It's worrying.
Time oscillator. I shall bring him round. Splendid chap.
Well, I'm going to say goodbye for me. I'm Neil Gardner. I hit my microphone now. Very unprofessional of me. I'll say goodbye from me, Neil Gardner. He'll say goodbye from him as Jon Culshaw first.
Yes, farewell. Thank you for watching.
And
thank you for your time.
Maybe Patrick could just get us out of this so we can go home.
Well, quite rightly, Professor Neil Gardner.
Yes.
Thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Next week on Talking Books, we shall be talking about books that talk and talking books and books that are talking and probably even speaking.
Wow.
Promises to be very interesting, and so until next time, from all of us here, good night.
Bye bye.